how do you navigate between the technical aspects of data science ML and the necessity to communicate the findings effectively to the stakeholders?
I actually feel that comes with time, right? Right. Because
Mhm.
everyone has a different reaction to change. The entire game is about you having to communicate with a person in front of you regarding the change which is happening in his life. You have an operations team. He is leading a team of 100 people, and then you say that, okay, I am building one framework, one model framework which will automate everything. You don't need 100 people, you need 30. Now that's a direct threat to him, saying that I built one model and your workforce has come down by 70%. But the way you can probably tackle this is saying that we as technical owners and you as a functional owner, we are creating this framework in which we are optimizing the ways of working. So you bring him on board to your exercise in the sense that you are just a technical owner. You are someone who is in the back end of things, and make him the functional owner who is basically going to be in the front end of things.
Welcome to Data Science Dialogues, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of data science and analytics, going beyond the lines of code to explore the crucial business aspects that drive innovation and decision making. I'm your host, ST, and each episode we will be joined by industry experts, thought leaders, and pioneers in the field of data science and analytics.
Today we have Sambamurthy Sreedhar. He is an analytics professional with 8+ years of experience across credit risk, fintech, and e-commerce. Fluent in machine learning, statistical modeling, and data analytics, with a proven track record of bringing value to the business. Also, a seasoned team leader.
Sreedhar, thank you so much for making the time. How's it going for you?
Doing well, man. Sunday morning, so a bit relaxed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
great,
it's
great.
good.
Uh, Sreedhar, we will dive right into it.
Yeah,
My first question for you is going to be, uh, from chemical engineering background,
yeah.
to switch in data science. I really want to know how that happened and why did that happen.
Right. So, first of all, like it's very common knowledge that in India there is not a lot of emphasis given to the core engineering branch in which you are in. So you will probably see biotech students, textile engineering students, doing killer things in the ML engineering space, in the software engineering space as well, right? So it all boils down to where the market is moving, right? Where the genuine, the general level of interest of the working class is, and that essentially
Hmm.
dictates the future course of action, right? And it's a general lack of I would say lack of not facilities, like it's general lack of uh, opportunities, I would say, in the core branches, which actually demotivates the people a bit. And which is the reason why
Understood.
people like me from let's say a chemical engineering background, we didn't feel much at home in terms of, okay,
Hmm.
doing things in the chemical engineering space. And plus, analytics, data science, and everything was a hot market. But not to say, like, there are people who have gone into chemical engineering research, doing awesome things, killer things, not only in India, but abroad as well. But I think it differs from person to person. And I felt that, okay, analytics, data science is probably, more of, more of a field that I'll probably vibe with. And that is the reason,
Understood.
that journey started.
Yeah, so while you were doing chemical engineering and then you switched to data science, did some similarities click, which helped you to switch to data science, let's say?
Yeah, so mostly there is a lot of maths involved, right? So it's not chemical
Absolutely.
engineering, it's not just, things like, okay, heat transfer, mass transfer, and so on and so forth. It's, a lot of those things are intuitive in nature, but there's a lot of maths involved, right? So when
Hmm.
you get that mathematical sense of things, when you look into, those vector calculations, matrix multiplications, integral differentials, and everything. So you essentially have that love and hate relationship with maths, right? So anything that
Right.
has to do with maths then actually, vibes with you a bit more, right? And data science, anyways, it's,
Hmm.
to be honest, it is less about the packages, less about import from, those kind of things. It's less about that and more about the maths behind it, right?
Absolutely.
So
Hmm.
that is one common thread, I would say, between, your core branches and the
Hmm.
field that you chose eventually.
Absolutely. So, Sridhar, now you had quite some experience in data science over the
Yeah,
years, and you have worked in multiple spaces now, right,
yeah,
as a data
yeah.
scientist. I working in a product company, what I generally do is, let's say, I identify where ML or data science products or deployments can help enhance the
Hmm.
user experience. Let's put it that way.
Hmm.
How do you identify opportunities where data science can add value to the company's operations or strategy? What's your strategy around that?
No, good question actually. So here there is so actually in this particular scenario, we as data scientists we need to work a lot with the business owners in terms of
Hmm.
understanding what kind of initiatives we should prioritize and what initiatives we should not, right? Because at the end of the day, if you look at the macro picture of the company, the people on the top, they are investing money in the
Hmm.
data science team, in the analytics team, in the BI team, in whatever teams there are. And if they invest X, they are expecting at least 4x, 5x, or even 10x in return.
Right.
So your projects should be in a in a very strong sense of the word should be centered around value propositions, right?
Understand. Hmm.
In that particular scenario, you might end up doing a lot of projects which require a lot of lot of improvisation in terms of changing the techniques on the last moment. You might go into the meeting thinking that okay, this can be an image classification model, or this can be a model which might be using transformers and so on. But you end up building something very simple as well. So that kind of improvisation might happen because at the end of the day, you are driving value.
Right.
So the moment you go into such kind of meetings, when you talk to business owners and everything, right? You need to be a bit more open-minded and not just go in there saying that I want to build a deep learning model, right? It shouldn't be like that. It should be okay. This particular problem, I'll probably want to generate $1 million in worth of cash flow, or
Hmm.
save $500,000 in terms of EBITDA. That can be not only just in terms of building a cutting edge state of the art model, but also simple regression models as well. You can, right?
Right.
That level of improvisation, that level of quick thinking is something which actually helps eventually, and that comes from
Hmm.
some level of experience as well, because you know the person whom you are talking to. If the person in front of you is a value driven person, if he is like, I don't want anything, I just need money, right? Then you have to talk his language. But if the person in front of you is more tech driven, he is more transformative driven, then you can more experiment with the kind of things which can be done. Probably make it more tech related, make it more state of the art, and so on. So it all depends on the business owner. The business owner
Hmm.
is about money. You have to talk about money. But if he is about transformation and everything, then you have that license to probably experiment a bit more.
Right. So, I reflected on it completely because, I am working on both the ends of a business, let's say where the product is being innovated, and on the other hand, there are other simpler business use cases where, you have to be more metric driven rather than in case
Yeah.
of the product where you have to be, a lot more innovative to find out that what the user wants in that scenario. So, Sridhar, if I can, combine both, and can you give me an example where you were metric driven, but at the same time you had to innovate something new around that.
Right. So there are countless examples, man. Like for example,
Mhm.
when you have certain processes, right? Like so, for example, in my
Mhm.
current company itself, so there is a very simple process in terms of placing orders, right? In terms of placing orders, and at the end of the day, when you have invoices which are floating around in the system, there can be errors on the invoice. There can be a lot of issues which can crop up in terms of invoices. Now there are different ways in which you can solve them. When you have
Mhm.
PDF invoices, when you have Word invoices, the first thing that comes to mind is OCR. First thing that comes
Right.
to mind is, building classification, this thing, object detection, numeric detection, and all those things, right? That's the first thing that comes to mind. But the
Absolutely.
second thing is simple change management. A very simple change management exercise in which you are just tweaking the process a bit and then solving the problem entirely, right? So
Mhm.
those are the kind of things which also can come up as far as your skill set is concerned, because that is also your skill set. Problem solving is also a skill set, right? Data scientists are supposed to look at the data, look at the entire process, process flow in the entire flow of point A to point B, look
Mm-hmm.
at those kind of metrics, and then probably tweak the process by means of a simple Python code, by means of a simple automation, and then solve the problem without making it very complicated. So this was one
Absolutely.
use case which we felt that we were able to solve in a much simpler way as compared to going into the entire exercise, right? But there is one catch that if you let's say make that as a rule, you might end up doing a lot of simple projects
Mm-hmm.
than making sure that you are trying to innovate. So there
Right.
is that balance which you have to maintain, because innovation is something which people have to do to keep them interested. Otherwise, the level of interest will definitely go down, right? So
Right.
there is that balance which has to be maintained at every point of time. We as leaders, or our leaders, they'll probably have to take a call at some point in time saying that, okay, let's not focus a lot on these simpler metrics and all, and probably do some innovation as well.
Hmm. Understood. So that good balance between keeping everything simple at times
Yeah,
as well as innovating, right? So
yeah,
one important question arises over here. Uh, there is also a balance needed between technical skills and soft skills over here. Okay, that
yeah.
when you are innovating or you are doing something simple or you are doing something completely different,
Hmm.
how do you navigate between the technical aspects of data science ML and the necessity to communicate the findings effectively to the stakeholders, with varying
Yeah,
levels of technical expertise, let's say.
yeah. That I would say, I actually feel that comes with, with time, right? Because these are things which, if I claim that 1 week masterclass which Sreedhar can teach you soft skills, that will never happen, right?
Right.
That can't happen, because it's something which when you get into the thick of things, you will understand how to deal with different kinds of people, right? Because
Hmm.
everyone has a different reaction to change, right? So it's just, the entire game about you having to communicate with a person in front of you regarding the change which is happening in his life, right? Because
Hmm.
if, let's say, you are I'll just give you one example, right? You have an operations team. The operations team is meant to ensure that people pay back on time. Now, this is like a credit risk scenario. I think
Right.
all of us are well versed with it, right? He's leading a team of 100 people. Everyone calls up people saying, please give back money, please give back money, and everything, right? Then you suddenly come up and then you say that, okay, I am building one framework, one model framework which will automate everything. You don't need 100 people, you need 30,
Hmm.
right? Now that's a direct threat to him, saying that I built one model and your workforce has come down by 70%.
Hmm.
Right. Now, this conversation is tough to have, number one, because you essentially are saying that, okay, I have come to your territory and I probably am, a force to reckon with, or something like that, like in that sense, because I have
Right.
come and disrupted your entire operations. But the way you can probably tackle this is saying that we as technical owners, we as technical owners and you as a functional owner, we are probably, creating this framework in which we are optimizing the ways of working. So you bring him on board to your exercise, in the sense that you are just a technical owner. You are, someone who is in the back end of things, and make him the functional owner who is basically going to be in the front end of things, so that he also at the end of the day gets the applauds and the bouquets from
Right.
the management with respect to innovating and so on and so forth. And you essentially, you are doing what you are expected to do. So this
Hmm.
is like, I'm just giving one example, right, in
Right.
which you essentially bring them onto your boat, make them, or give them that feeling that, okay, they are the people who are innovating and so on, and make sure that they are also they are also on board with that. And that's something which actually people aspire to do, to be honest. When you meet business owners, right, business owners, what I have come across is that a lot of them aspire to be more innovative, in the sense that they want to embrace more technology. A lot of them go and do certifications in data science. A lot of people go do certifications in machine learning. Like, you'll probably see a lot, right?
Hmm.
So that just shows that they are also wanting to learn, right? And it's a good
Right.
thing, you know. So these are the kind of things which you probably have to take a bit of advantage of, talk to them, understand what their thought process is, and then take a call accordingly. But if you see someone, let's say, who is very stubborn, those are some tough calls to have. Those you really can't do anything because he doesn't want to learn anything. Like he is
Hmm.
not budging. So those are, some tricky conversations which have to be tackled in a different manner.
Understood. A lot, I have learned a lot of these things, from reading, articles, which work on data science, okay, but are meant for common people, let's say.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
so the type of conversations they put up over there, or
Hmm.
the way they communicate the insights over there, okay, that gets me a little hang of it. These are the things that might help the common people, or person who doesn't know technicalities of data science to
Yeah.
understand the findings better. Right.
Yeah.
Now, if Sridhar, we switch a little gears over here, that
Hmm.
leadership and team management becomes very important. Can you
Yeah.
discuss a project or times in which you had to effectively balance team dynamics, while ensuring the project success in such a data science or ML environment?
And there's several, too many to,
Yeah.
too many out of which, So, this thing will keep happening, right? So, because
Mhm.
at the end of the day, you also have deliverables, right? So, let's say so I've been a people manager, right?
Mhm.
I have deliverables. I have certain targets saying that, okay, I have to, make sure that, XYZ project succeed and ensure that certain deliverables are, ensuring that they are done. So at the end of the day, the kind of projects which are happening, right? The kind of work which is happening might not vibe with the team which I have, right? So if I have a team of 4 people working on a certain project, there can be 2 people who are very technical in nature and they don't like this entire exercise of probably presenting PowerPoint presentations in terms of the senior management. They might not like it. And then you have the second type of people who are a bit more analytical in nature, bit more business oriented in nature, and who might not be very affluent in terms of coding, right?
Mhm.
So that kind of balance has to be maintained in terms of who should be given what. Because me as a leader, my responsibility is to ensure that the person who is best at doing something should be given that particular role. So if there are 2 people who are expert coders, I will probably want them to do the entire coding exercise, whereas the business and functional thing might should be given to the other ones, right?
Mhm.
But then again, we also have a responsibility to ensure that they need to improve their skill sets as well. I wouldn't want a person who is just a PPT guy to remain a PPT guy, right? I would want him to be a bit more hands-on, right? Probably, step into the entire field of MLOps, to write production-ready codes and so on. And the other way around as well. I'll probably want that the guy who is the best ML engineer in that sense to probably present one finding in front of a senior manager, right?
Mhm.
So that kind of balance is something which has to be taken care of time to time, right? And this has happened, in the past. The first couple of projects when I started off as a people manager, there were a lot of cases in which because I had to just take care of my deliverables, I lost track of this balance.
Right.
So the people who were good at coding remained in that section, and people who were doing PPT remained in PPT. So a couple of months after that, I realized that okay, balance is something which has to be maintained, right? We have to
Right.
ensure that people are, improving themselves because they shouldn't come to office and think that okay, man, what am I learning? So those things did happen in like the first couple of months of being a people manager. But after that, once you get a hang of that, once you get a hang of the ambitions of your reportees, the
Mhm.
ambitions of people in general, that is when you realize that okay, people are ambitious, people want to learn, right? You give them something new to learn, they'll definitely accept it because it's not like this is bad knowledge. It's not like okay, this is useless knowledge for me. No, absolutely not. Everything which you learn is something which is useful only in this entire place. So that's something when you realize that you essentially try and ensure that okay, there is a balance associated with
Yeah, great, Sridhar. So, I have always kind of, if not compared, but I could find similarities of data science as a profession with
it. Mhm.
doctor as a profession, because just one similarity I could find is, continuous learning and learning and learning, and it doesn't stop
Mhm.
anywhere. So much research, so much development, new models coming up, new use cases and whatnot. So, could you share, how you stay updated with the emerging trends and technologies within the data science field?
So, one thing is that, one way that you can keep yourself updated is by ensuring that you are, you are subscribed to any kind of these newsletters which keep coming, right?
Mhm.
Like you have Medium, which is a very good,
Right.
very good space in which people contribute very, very, very informative articles in that sense, right? Then you have, a lot of these, forums and blogs and so on, which can actually keep you up to date, right? They can help you increase that knowledge base. But the real impact which you will have in terms of implementing, in terms of implementing those things can be done only when you are doing things hands-on.
Right.
Right. So, for example, if you learned something new about LLMs, right?
Mhm.
If you learned something new about how to build a chatbot with open source language models, let's by using Falcon, you were able to build, like you read a blog saying that how to build it or something. Till such time you do it hands on, you won't get the vibe of it, right?
Mhm.
You just know the entire process. You know the
Mhm.
entire process of creating embeddings and doing all of that stuff, right? But you don't know the grind,
Mhm.
right? So once you only do hands-on, that entire knowledge base gets imbibed in your own skill set.
Right.
Okay. The other way, and this entire hands-on thing, it is hard to do independently, right? So it's
Mhm.
very hard for me to probably go to a Kaggle competition or do it separately or something like that. It is easier for you to find probably a use case within your own your
Right.
own organization, and then basically get more resources from the company's end, and then do it. Because by this way, you are actually solving two things. One thing is that you are learning,
Mhm.
and the second thing, you are doing something good for the company, which can actually give you things in return.
Right.
In the sense that, let's say you build a crazy model which is doing some general use case that can actually reflect a lot in your discussions about promotions, probably give you a more technical role and so on. But if you are, let's say an entrepreneurial guy, if you want to, probably say that I don't want to do anything for any company, I want to do it on my own, that's also good. So
Mhm.
there are a lot of use cases in that sense, but keep yourself updated by means of blogs and everything, and then start doing hands-on on those. That's what I would say.
Right. So, Sridhar, one important thing that I learned over time, in this field is
Hmm.
ethical considerations in data science becomes a very important part, right? How
Yeah,
do
yeah.
and it becomes, and you would relate the best because you had worked in credit risk management and
Yeah,
stuff, right? So,
exactly.
how do you ensure ethical considerations are integrated into the development and deployment of such models?
So one very good way in which we do that is working a lot with the stakeholders, right?
Right.
Because let's say you are building any kind of model. Let's say you are building credit risk models, right? There are certain countries in which you should not be taking the age as
Mhm.
one of the variables, right? There are certain countries in which you should not be looking at gender, right? So there are a lot of these considerations which have to be taken, but these are things which you will probably not know, right?
Right.
So it's a lot to do with you working a lot with the stakeholders in terms of understanding, okay, which features should be included, features should be excluded, right? Also, in case, let's say there are certain features which are missed out in the discussion phase, in
Mhm.
the in the initial discussion phase, the business discovery data understanding phase, those features should definitely be addressed when you are refining the model, right? Because let's say it comes up in the feature importance somewhere, right?
Mhm.
I remember one use case when in my previous org that there are a lot of variables which are captured by certain data providers, right? So there was one variable which captured which said what exact I don't exactly remember. There was like number of digits in the email ID or something like that,
Okay.
right? That came out for some reason. That came out significant, but it really didn't make any sense.
Mhm.
Right. So, for the kind of use case which we were trying to solve, right? So at the end of the day, when you are doing that feature importance chart and when you are trying to talk to or convince the stakeholder that this is a good model, in those states, you will have to address those variables and then take a call on whether or not to include them. And that is where your question of ethics and bias actually comes
Mhm.
in terms of, how to address that. So two steps. First is business understanding, data understanding phase. Let's not address those variables at all. Like
Right.
not take those variables at all. And in case you actually miss out, in case there is a data provider which actually brings that variable into the system, make sure that when you are doing the feature importance
Mhm.
exercise, when you are looking at the sharp values and addressing it to the stakeholders, make sure that they are okay with that, right?
Right.
Because you'll have to have an explainability framework as well.
Mhm.
Because a lot of models these days, without explainability, they are not flying,
Right.
and the business, and rightly so, because if I am a business owner, I would want to know why this model is saying that, okay, the probability of this line item is 93.7%. Why is it 93.7? Why is it not 99.5? So that explainability level is also required. And in there, you will figure out, okay, this variable doesn't make any sense. So yeah,
Yep,
I
right.
think these are a couple of steps which can help you out.
Absolutely. So, as you mentioned that at times the stakeholders' inputs become very handy in such cases, let's say for age not taken into consideration or gender not taken into consideration in the model variables. But, what I've
Hmm.
seen is perhaps after you have developed the model, let's say, and then you need those variables to actually find out that whether, although you haven't considered that those variables into the model, but some other models have contributed to becoming the model biased, right, for those
Hmm.
variables, let's say for gender, and then it becomes important for those variables to identify whether your model has become biased or not, right? So
Yeah,
that becomes handy. So Sridhar,
exactly.
I've been following your posts on LinkedIn for some time now, and
Yeah, yeah,
I saw you taking quite some interest in generative AI,
yeah,
recently.
yeah.
In your posts about generative AI capabilities, how do you envision the integration of such technologies in enhancing data generation or augmentation, or it may be general use cases as well?
Right. So, first of all, thanks for reading my
Yeah.
post. Anyways, so in terms of how generative AI can transform things, there is, to be honest, there is no limit
Hmm.
to which Gen AI can transform things. Like it has just reached the of we as people who are implementing it at our organization, we have just reached the tip of the actual levels of possibility, right?
Right.
So one level of possibility, like what we did, was building something like a chatbot on trained data, like on some data by building a RAG framework and so on and so
Hmm.
forth. This is just one very simple use case, right? If you see, there are certain products which Adobe has launched, in which you need to just write what you want to edit on a certain photo.
Hmm.
They'll give you a photo. Let's say there is a photo of you and me,
Right.
right? And you want to say remove Sreedhar or remove this guy with the green shirt from the photo, and it will remove it and then paint everything in the back of it, right?
Right.
So essentially, I think this is something which is unheard of, man. But I wouldn't have thought of this before. Like no one would have thought of this, right? And then you have certain other frameworks as well. Very recently there are a lot of these AI softwares which can generate songs which are sung by celebrities.
Right.
Right. So, these are things which people do for fun, definitely. Right. If you think about it, the possibilities are endless.
Right.
Right. There can be, if you look at it just purely on a serious note, if you look at it purely from an ML point of view, machine learning, data science point of view, you can actually use generative AI to trigger machine learning workflows.
Hmm.
Right. You can literally say that extract, that the entire prompt which you're talking about, extract data from this server, perform feature engineering, build a classification model, push the best working model based on an F1 score into production,
Hmm.
and then generate a REST API endpoint.
Right.
Simple. At the end of the day, this entire prompt will work for, let's say, 1 hour, 2 hours or something. Build a model, push it into production, and then you have an API. Right. This is the end game, because once you have this, you don't need a data engineer. You don't need a person who is, building a model. You don't need a lot of people. You just need people who are expert at ensuring, at making this entire pipeline.
Hmm.
Right. So this is literally where we can reach, right? From a business standpoint, there are a lot of, folks who are looking out for a one-stop shop in terms of insights. Like, let's say the VP of marketing wants to know, okay, where should I, which segment should I market the next $100,000, which I get in, let's say, Brazil, right?
Hmm.
Which segment I should market, right? Or which segment I should market in this, that, etc. Currently, it might the chatbot might give very basic this thing, saying that okay, the sales dropped here, there, everywhere, which is the reason why you should market. But if the bot is able to run ML workflows, if the bot is able to give propensity models saying that the probability of the $100,000 of being a success in market A is more than market B,
Hmm.
or it does that entire optimization framework, probably like a price sensitivity analysis, triggering all those workflows in the backend. If it is able to do that just by means of a prompt,
Hmm.
then you are literally,
Reached
reaching
it.
that
Yeah.
level, saying that exactly is one prompt, then that's it. You are triggering everything in the backend, right? So this is literally, I would say, like where you can reach if you actually just sit back and think what all you can do, right? Where, these things take a lot of efforts, man, right? Because you have to currently I'm not even sure whether this can, this can literally trigger those kind of ML, workflows and everything. Currently, LangChain, we have experimented a lot with SQL code generation, basic data analysis, and so on. Model building, not sure. Probably triggering or connecting it with certain other, these workflows and everything might be possible, but these are things which can be experimented.
Right. So, Sridhar, one thing I have been working on, using this generative AI or LLMs recently is, in recommendation systems, right? If the large language model can look at all the data that is there and generate a huge knowledge graph, let's say knowledge graph kind of, and I have interacted with some of the items over there, and you have interacted with some of the items over there. It can actually recommend the third person coming in, okay, what that person would actually should be recommended over time. So, I mean, limitless possibilities and
Yeah,
whatnot, right? So, and one
exactly.
another post that I saw of yours is, auto ML and scalable model building, right? I mean, that is something
Yeah.
very new to me. You highlighted auto ML using auto gluon, I
Auto
guess,
glow on.
auto gluon
Yeah.
package, right?
Yeah.
What's it about? If you just elaborate a little on it.
Okay, sure. So, okay, for the folks who probably not know about AutoML, just the name is by the name, what it suggests is that it essentially builds a lot of machine learning models based on the kind of inputs that you are giving, the kind of metrics that you are looking out for, and it builds a host of machine learning models based on based on the input features that you have, the kind of metrics that you are trying to optimize, and so on. AutoGluon, the speciality which it has, and like you guys can probably go through the documentation on the website, is that whatever models which are there, they are not your classic random forest XGBoost models. They are some different kind of models which are which the folks, the people who had built the package, they had actually experimented with. So, for example, there are certain models which are weighted ensemble L1, L2. Probably, I'm just giving one model, right? Or there, it's just a lot of these custom-made models in which a lot of optimizations were done initially by them, and they essentially package everything all together and then put it in one framework. So it's something which is pretty powerful. So just to give you one use case. So there was like a hackathon which happened in the company, right? So you can literally. So what I did was I just wanted to experiment it with this package. So what I did was I just used this package and then ran it without doing any feature engineering, nothing. And then immediately I saw myself in the second position or third position, I think. I don't remember. Right. And then I have other folks who are just, doing their feature engineering and so on and so forth, and then trying to trying very hard to get to the this thing. So, it's a pretty powerful thing, guys. Just, do give it a read. But on a more, philosophical note, AutoML actually takes a lot of effort out of this entire exercise of model building, right? So it's not just this. There are other packages, PyCaret, H2O, and so on. You can experiment a lot with those models, like those frameworks, and it takes a lot of effort out of the modeling exercise, as I just mentioned. And then that actually begs the question that there is this, this entire, discussion saying that because there is AutoML, because there is auto this, auto that, so on, is there any point in learning, whatever there is, which is there in the internal models? I would actually say there is, because at the end of the day, if you have a certain model which is there, which is selected by the AutoML framework, unless you know the parameters of the model, unless you know how it works, you won't be able to fine tune it more, right? So let's say you understood that, okay, you have XGBoost as, a model. Okay, fine. Now what do I do? You now just have a model object which was given to you. But now what do you do? You basically should have an understanding of the entire framework. How does XGBoost work? What exactly are the individual parameters? And then try and see, okay, which parameters are giving me the best, right? Now, even those things now are, slowly and steadily getting automated, but that's something which is there in the future. But I would say that do have a grasp of algos in general, their workings in general, so that it's easier for you to understand which results are working and which results are not. And also with respect to the kind of metrics which you are using, right? Sorry for deviating
Oh, it's
from the
absolutely fine.
conversation, but
Yeah.
so it's important to know the kind of metrics as well which you are using in terms of validating individual machine learning models as well. So don't just trust AutoML blindly. You should QC the result, and the only way you can understand the results is by understanding individual models and individual parameters.
Right. So, I always see it very important to actually knowing what's happening and in the back end rather than just trusting it
Yeah.
out. Because at some point of time, there might come a problem statement for you where
Hmm.
AutoML, let's say, might not perform that
Yeah.
well, right? And then your
Hmm.
innovation comes in that what changes you need to make so that you get that sweet spot for that particular model, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
huh,
and and there is an issue with respect to pushing these things into production as well.
right.
Right. So there was one issue which we had with respect to PyCaret.
Mhm.
Right. So this was sometime, I think, a year back or year and a half back, in which PyCaret actually did some deprecation or did some changes to their framework. Right. And because of which our model stopped performing or it stopped giving results altogether.
Right.
Right. So these kind of things actually happen when you have those things in place. Right. So there is a challenge as well in terms of pushing these things into production unless you are very sure. So even LangChain currently, when we are using LangChain in our LLM exercises, LangChain is something, it's not something which has been there for 15, 20
Right.
years. It's very new. The
Mhm.
guys, put it last year only, right? Now, those things are also changing. They are also, evolving as days goes on. So their packages also change. There are a lot of dependencies which change. So you really can't push everything into production altogether. So you have to be very, coming back to the AutoML exercises, you have to be very, choosy or very picky about pushing these things into production. You need to understand that, okay, the base model only can be
Mhm.
right. You can only leverage AutoML, AutoGlow, and all to understand which model is working,
Right.
store that model object, and then do the fine tunings over there.
Got it. Got it. So, Sridhar, we might switch gears over here a bit for the last question for
Yeah.
you.
Hmm.
Had it not been data science for you, let's say, or even for the timing, let's say chemical engineering is also not there in the picture. Okay. What would you have done or pursued, let's say?
I would have been a journalist, man. I
Okay.
actually wanted
That's
to be a
interesting. Yeah.
I wanted to be a journalist since class seventh or sixth. That's when I started writing. Actually, I got this, this what do you call idea that okay, writing is something which is interesting or something like that. I started writing over there. My father was very instrumental in that, so he gave me a diary and everything, and then I just went crazy. So ever since then, I was like, okay, journalist, probably something of a writer, more into that space, probably get into drama as well. So those kind of things is what I wanted to do, right? Then my brother, so my brother is 3 years older than me, right? So he first got into IIT Madras in 2006, and then it was sealed that okay, if brother is doing engineering, who are you, man? You are not allowed to do anything else, right?
Understood. Yeah.
So yeah, so it was like okay, and then even I was at we are talking about 2007,
Right.
2006. So there is no independent thought, no even the Gen Z which of today, they are independent thinkers. They are like okay, I will do what I want to do,
Mhm.
YOLO and all those things. Like we didn't have anything like that. We are like okay,
Engineering
Papa
is
is
there.
saying
Yeah.
to do engineering, we will do engineering, right? So then we got me enrolled into Fiji, and then that thing started. The grind for 2 years started. That's it.
Right.
Story closed.
So let's say if this data science thing, I mean, at some point you will, stop being an employee per se, right? And then what?
Yeah.
Then what? Let's say.
So I have, actually given this a thought, like significant thought.
Mhm.
I actually feel very, comfortable teaching.
Right.
Right. So it's more to do with even in college.
Mhm.
So if my couple of my batchmates end up watching this podcast, they will agree that there have been a lot of times in which I have taught a lot of people.
Right.
So and that process, no, that process is actually very interesting because you end up, it's a gratifying process, no,
Mhm.
because the people you teach, they are getting respectable numbers. They are not failing in the exams. That's something like okay, chalo, buddy, I have achieved whatever I've achieved.
Right.
So that process is actually good because I like that the feeling that comes up later. And plus I have been trying to get into that lately as well in terms of just getting a couple of people here and there and then trying to teach them whatever there is, even simple maths.
Mhm.
So I used to talk to a lot of my relatives, right? A lot of my relatives who are let's say in 10th or in college, and then I just ask them, are you facing any issues in maths or facing any issues here and there? He's like, yeah, Mike, can you help me or something? Then 1 hour, 2 hour on a weekend, I'll probably take and so on and so forth. And that's something which I like to do. Later is something, yeah,
Yeah.
even primary school teaching I am okay with, man. But teaching is something which I want to go into.
Great. That's a great vision. Sridhar, I'm sorry I said a lot. Last question. One more question popped in my mind. Just, I
No
promise
problem.
it's gonna be the last one.
Nah, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine, man. That's fine.
Choose one. Okay.
Mhm.
Legacy or money?
Choose one between legacy or money.
Yeah.
See, there are home loans right now, so I'll probably say money,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
But any other day I would have probably said legacy. But अभी home loan चल रहा है,
Okay.
इसीलिए I'll probably say money.
Well done.
But yeah, like if you don't have, these financial
Constraints. Yeah.
these things,
Yeah.
right? So constraint, then I'll probably have said, legacy, because legacy stays on,
Right.
right? We are all here in the world for just a, limited period of time.
Mhm.
So that legacy, keeping that legacy alive is something which I would have probably said had I not had a home loan.
Okay, great, Sheila. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Great insights. And I cannot. This conversation is going to be priceless, to be very honest. And whatever insights our viewers can fetch out of it, right? So yeah, thank you so much
Yeah.
on a Sunday. Yeah,
Thanks, man. Thank you so much.
yeah.
Bye bye.